something. And we do that to get the plankton bloom. Because like I said, we're getting these guys and they're like the size of a gnat, like an eyelash or something. So we start this plankton bloom, and this way, the succession of how the plankton goes, it starts and you're always going to have the rotifers first is what they're called. And we have a microscope we look at them with, and they're tiny. I mean, you can barely see them.
So the word fingerling means nothing when you go to get them. I'm thinking fingerling.
No, we get them. We get them as fry. We raise them to fingerling.
Okay.
Call them, an inch and a half, 2 inches long. Okay, so we get them fertilized. We try to get that plankton bloom, and we want it to hit just right where we have this big bloom of rotifers when those little bitty fish go in there. Because if the food source is any bigger than that, like the bigger algae, like your copepods and cladostris, could actually eat them. So we do not want that to happen. So that's why it's the 5 to 7 day deal. If you go 14 days, the way it goes, you're going to start getting a lot more copepods and cladostris. So we put them in, try to get them right on top of a big bloom of rotifers, and then we fertilize after that once a week for 2 weeks. We go 7 days after we put them in, we fertilize again. We just want, because the zooplankton, which our fish are eating, are the rotifers, the copepods, and cladostris, they're feeding on the phytoplankton. And the phytoplankton is feeding on, or the zooplankton feeds on the phytoplankton. So we've got to feed our zooplankton as well. And that's what the fertilizer does. It feeds the phytoplankton. It keeps the nutrients in there. So, and we do about 1,000 pounds of fertilizer per acre. And we use cottonseed and alfalfa pellets. Yes. And we do initially, we do about half of that, and then we break it down and fertilize 2 more times, which we do 1/4 and 1/4 of the 1,000 per acre. So then we fertilize and we plankton count every week. We try to keep, there's a number we try to keep to know that our fish have plenty to eat, which is 500 planktons per liter is what it's called. So we keep counting plankton and saying if there's plenty of plankton for our fish. If there's not, we might fertilize more. So, and that's what we do every week. And after that, we go and we sample our fish, and normally it depends what we're raising, but our walleye our sawguy and our hybrids only take about 21 days to get to a fingerling-sized fish. When we store our fish,